Hello everyone, welcome to another of our Patreon demonstration videos. This week in my studio I'm working on a few icons that I'm trying something new with. Well, it's new for me, and that is working much more thinly with the paint, applying it in a thinner way. If you can see how even here, like these should be quite dark. And this is the Rosecrans level, which, as you know, is normally the darkest layer. But I want to try even his face, if you can see that. Usually it's much, much darker than that. The trees would be really almost quite dark. And certainly the cave would be much darker. The robe. So, and also this robe. So that's how this one looks. And then here's another one. Today I'm just going to demonstrate on Elijah, but you might see it a little bit more clearly on this one. This is the Mary that we're going to be doing in the March class here in Sarasota. I don't know if, from the lights that I have on here, I'm not sure if you can really see the beauty of this very kind of light color and the modeling and the transparency. It's very, very delicate. You can see that in the face too. And certainly the background here. And so my plan is, what I'd like to do is to the next coat to apply very thinly also, but a different color. So this is obviously not the color of the robe usually for Mary. It's usually much more of a maroon color. But using this as the base and then applying a very thin transparent veil of maroonish color on there. For that color, I'm going to use my, where did I have it? A combination of the cadmium red dark and this beautiful Corinthian purple that I got from Earth Pigments. I just love it. And so I like to try out my new pigments as well. So anyway, so this is the fun I'm having in the studio this week. And I wanted to show you that what I was doing was looking at my painting, my icon. And if you remember from your color theory, that the opposite of violet is going to be a yellow, and in this case you can see that it's almost more of a yellowish green color is opposite. So we could mix these two colors and neutralize it, right? Take away the purity of the pigment or the purity of the chroma, or not. And so when I'm mixing colors, I'm always thinking about this. This is actually a Munsell color wheel. There are many different color theories. This is the most modern one that I'm aware of, which states that instead of the primary colors that we learned about, instead of red, blue, and yellow, it's a cyan color and a yellow and a magenta. That's the basis for all colors. So I have, this is a more traditional color wheel, which is nice. This is pretty portable too. And, I recommend that you get at least one of these, whichever one you choose. But just to help you, sometimes when you're mixing colors, this is very basic, but yellow and blue is green. Yellow, green, by adding white, this is the color you get. By adding black, this is the color you get. So you start to train your eye. Here's also a value scale. So this is the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these would be the darkest ones, right? And then over here, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So very light would be the 10 one would be a white. So in the back, on the beginning one is black, the end is white, and the different shades in between. Now, why this is helpful is you can put these values, say, next to a color. Let's say I want to see what the value is of blue-violet. It's pretty close to black. It's I would say it's a value number 2. Yeah, you can't even, in the light that we have right now, you can't even see the difference between the two. That's how you know. You can tell. Because if you just look at the colors, I do this all the time in my sketchbook. I bring out a set, choose 5 different colors to work on in sketching. And, you know, I'll always do a little swatch there of each one and then figure out which is lighter and which is darker. Figure out the value scale of each color before I even get started, even just in sketching. You really need to begin training your eye in these subtle differences. Look how perfectly this matches up here. And for the value, this really matches up perfectly. So this would be the value of this red. But of course, if you had this color here, the tint of this green, then that would be a much lighter value over here, wouldn't it? So a lot to think about, and it all fits into when you're working on your icon. Yes, we know that there are traditional colors that are used for traditional subjects, like here in the Madonna. This robe in the Eastern Church is always going to be a deep maroon color. But in order to achieve that maroon color, we can go at that in many different ways by understanding how colors mix together. And so what I'm saying, I'm experimenting with right now in my studio is applying 2 different colors, say here, a color that's different from this on top of this. And what that does, it's going to allow the colors to mix on the board and in the gesso. And that's going to give it a beautiful, deep, 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 rich color. So you don't have to do it this way, but you know, it's going to make a really excellent icon when it's finished. And so in mixing my colors for the Elijah, I was trying to figure out what colors I wanted to use in my pigments. And these are the ones I chose. This is that Corinthian purple I told you about. This is raw sienna. This is the cadmium red dark. And this is Vagone green. So I've shown you before about my, this is my book of color swatches that I take. Every time I use a new color, I've been putting it down here and labeling it and trying to label, in fact, where it comes from, like black currant. That's this color right here, clay. Sometimes I forget, which is annoying. I get carried away painting, but I think that's a raw sienna. Cinnabar red, carmine nacarat, which is beautiful. Hostaperm pink. I mean, these are incredible, aren't they? But so when I wanted to make these, work on this Elijah icon, I had some ideas, and then I researched them here to see if I knew, you know, what that color would look like. So I didn't see one there. Where are they all now? I must have skipped a couple of pages here. Yep, I sure did. Here we go. Here's some more. Nothing terribly methodical about me there, skipping pages. But it doesn't really matter. The main thing is that I record it, that I take the color swatch and I record, you know, which one it is in my cabinet here. So I was looking for the type of green that I wanted, and so I found this other page. Oh, here we go. I think it was this one. No, must be this one. No, I think there's still another one. Well, I knew, this is how I knew I wanted the Corinthian purple, because I had this here. Ah, here we go. This is the one I was looking for. Vagone green. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that color. I don't know if you can see it in this light, but wow. And so that is this one here, which is a Kramer color. It's Kramer 41750. So I wanted that for the trees in Elijah. And I wanted the cadmium red dark plus the Corinthian purple for the robe. And I wanted to use the raw sienna. So this one is a strong raw sienna, which is also called deep orange. Raw sienna, deep orange chroma here. And so that's made by Sinopia. So that's why I put the maker of it here, just because there, you saw that other sienna that I had in here that is very light. So I still have to figure out where that one came from. This one right here. It's you can see it's really quite different if you look at that, and then you look at this one. It's quite different. So same name but different pigment. So anyway, so I again keep recommending to you all that you keep a color swatch. Doesn't have to be this particular notebook, but I saw it and I was intrigued by it. This is the Painter's Color Diary, which you can get online, I'm sure. So, or you could just keep track in your sketchbook too. It's however you manage to keep track of your studio notes. So we'll start with mixing up this beautiful color here for the red robe. And you can see how this part up here is much darker than down here. That was a mistake that I made, but I'm not worried about it at this stage because I'm going to keep layering over it. And I'm really trusting the process. I'm trusting God in the process. And if something happens a certain way, I'm not sure why I forgot that part when I was doing this part, but I believe it's all going to work out for the good. So we'll just watch that happen as God wills, really. So I'm mixing up that cadmium red dark, which is, whoa, so dark. It's a very strong color, and it's pretty much overwhelmed that Corinthian purple, which is this color. So that is not what I want. I want more of the Corinthian purple. So I'm going to take some more Corinthian purple and put it over here. Let me see if you can see me. Yes, you can. And then I'm going to take some of the mixture that I made over here. So it's been diluted with a bit of the crimson, the purple color, and that is a nice color right there. That's nice. I'm just looking at it and thinking, I think I'll put a little bit more of this color here, and a little bit more of this, and a little bit of water, just a drop of water. Well, actually, that was the other thing. So part of this plan that I'm doing, which is experimenting a bit, is to make sure that the paint is very thin, which, as you can see, I just tested it out here. It's not that thin. So I'm going to put some more water in it. And let's see now how thin it is. It's quite a bit thinner. You can see that. I think I'm going to be okay with that because this is still the Rose Krish. So let's see how we get on here with this. And I'm going to do it a little bit in the puddle and pull method. And I'm using a somewhat smaller brush, and I'm going to really take my time with it. Just not going to rush, going to pray my way through this beautiful robe. Thinking of all of the people I'm praying for. Today was a minor feast day in the Anglican Church for St. Alred, who was an early saint, and he was known for his encouragement and fostering the development of friendships. And even though he became a monk, he started the Cistercian order, which was an order that set out to bring somewhat of reform to the previous Benedictine order. So the Cistercians wanted things to be a bit more stoic and ascetic. So you wouldn't think that God would lead him to realize how important friendship was, but that is what God did. And he realized that was a very important part of the spiritual life. And I've really taken that to heart today and realized that I needed to reach out to certain friends that I have been hanging back and not connecting with, because I just love being in my studio. I admit it. I can't help it. I just love it. It's my favorite thing, and I try to do it 6 days a week. But having friends is also important, especially in my case, spiritual friends, as well as art friends. Each brings something different to our friendship and strengthens a different part of myself, and I hope I strengthen that in them. Or however God wants to use me to strengthen them. But I pray that I'm always a good influence as God intends. So I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I hope you can see it with all that light that's on it. Just really beautiful. Just really beautiful. Come up here. Carefully do this part. So now the test is going to be, let's see what happens when, oh gosh, that is gorgeous. Thank you, Lord. Let's see what happens when we come down here and do this, because it wasn't as dark as the upper robe was. So we know it's going to look a bit different, but let's see how it helps to assimilate this area into the rest of the robe. Oh, I'm just loving this color so much. When I was in Florence several years ago, and I got to see all of the Fra Angelico icons in San Marco, this color stood out to me, and I went, ever since then I've been on a quest to find this color. And I've come to find out it doesn't exist in and by itself, but it exists in tints and shades and tones of colors put together. So I get to satisfy my desire to experiment in all kinds of different ways in icons. And it's part of, it's a way of always learning. I think working on icons and understanding icons and how they fit in our culture, it's always a learning process. Now look at that. See how closely now they look? Only slightly differently. I just think that's gorgeous. I'm really happy with that. Okay, now I'm going to work on the trees here. And I have here my Vagone green. And I'm going to take some of it. This is just the pure Vagone here. and put it in this well over here. And I'm going to mix, if you remember on the color wheel, the opposite of green is red. And I'm going to take some of that cadmium red dark and mix it in. Let me see what I get. Oh, it's really nice and kind of brownish. Yeah, I like that. I think that's nice, although I think in this case we could use more pigment because the Vagon green is not heavily pigmented. Like this color here, the cadmium red, whoa, look how powerful that was, right? It just takes over. But I have to put a lot of the pigment in the green Vagon mixture to get a dark shade like that. So I'm going to put and also I have to put water in it because I'm experimenting on doing this in a thin way. So let's see how it works here. Come up here. But because I'm putting on this darker background of the, that was a Milori blue. Look at the difference, right? You can see that. Because it's on top of this, it's really strengthened it tremendously. So I find this to be really a fun way to approach icon writing because there's always an element of discovery and prayer and being open to what God wants to do today. I'm doing this awkwardly because I like to rest my hand down, but I can't because that robe is wet right there. So, as you can see, I got some on my hand already. So it's doing this a little bit awkwardly. Make sure you can see this. Yes, you can. So I'm kind of puddling and pulling this also. This brush is a number 2. It's a long point, a long round, they call it. I like the long ones. For me, they're somewhat flexible, and I enjoy that touch with them on the board. And again, that's another area for individual responses. You might prefer, you know, a shorter, flatter bristle brush, or even a longer one. The liners are quite long and thin. So this part here where the purple robe is, obviously if I touch it with this green, it's going to bleed, so I can't do that. But I'll get close to it. And then I'll come back and fill it in once it's drier. See, I like the way that happened. It's just kind of a watermark, but because I'm painting nicely and thinly here, it shows through and it looks like what a real tree would look like there. So, I think those two things really have made the icon quite stunning. And the only other thing I would work on here is this outer border really needs it because it's kind of mottled looking every which way here. So I think for that, I'm just going to take some of the Vagon green and I'm going to try mixing it with some of that raw sienna that I showed you. Let's see what I get. Curious. Interesting. Okay, wait till you see this. Doesn't really look that green. Ah, there we go. Look at that. Interesting. So I wonder what that's going to look like on top of this bluer background here, the outer border. So we're going to give that a try and see how we like it. But first, I have to put more water in because we're working more thinly than I usually do. Let me try that on the paper here. Gosh, that's a great color. Yikes. That's brilliant. I'll have to put that in my color book. Yes, so that's quite a bit. You can see that, right? How it's much lighter in value than this because I added the water to it. All right, so I'm going to change my brush here to, yeah, I think I can handle this one. This one is so used I can hardly see it. It's a Winsor Series 7. This is a number 4. I tend to keep my brushes even when they should be recycled. So I've had this one for ages, but that is beautiful. I want to make it transparent enough to allow this blue to show through underneath. I'm even thinking of making it a tiny bit more transparent just by adding a bit more water. Okay, now let's let that dry and see what that suggests needs to happen next. So I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Obviously there's more to go. Maybe I'll film that too when I do the other colors, but I need to really think about them now because you've got this kind of raw sienna or orange ochre color here, but I need to do a somewhat similar color here, and I don't want them to be the same. So I have to do a little experimenting and working in my sketchbook, mixing colors to see what's going to happen next. All right, God bless you all, and I hope I see you in our Zoom class this month. God bless. Bye.